back. Thank you for joining us here on the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. We've had some disappointing outings with Captain America, with Utopia. Let's get into a book that actually between Jose and I stirred some differing opinions. So I'm curious as to what's going to happen here. Batman and Robin #2. After Batman and Robin #1 cleansed the palate from the Battle for the Cowl miniseries, we've had some really good follow-ups to that. We had Detective Comics. We had Judd Winnick's Batman. Mm-hmm. We had Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah, which was alright.
No, Paul Dini.
No.
Now we have the second issue of Batman and Robin, the Grant Morrison Frank Quitely book, which follows up on the events from last issue. I enjoyed it. Actually, I really put this book up here. I know when we were talking about this book, when we were talking about issue #1, Avi was actually in on the discussion, and he wasn't terribly impressed with it because he felt not a heck of a lot happened in the book. Mm-hmm. He felt that the art was very static and so forth. This issue, to me, it seems like a lot more happened. There was more action. If anything, you have this interesting little bookend opening and closing the story.
A flashback.
A flashback where Dick Grayson, we're talking second issue into this series, he's already doubting himself as Batman.
Yeah.
And specifically how he's dealing with Damian as Robin. Damian is turning out to be a real handful for him. Mm-hmm. A little harder to think of, to deal with than he could think of. And we're also seeing how there is a bit of a doubt between Batman and Batman's supporting cast, namely Commissioner Gordon, who is noticing that Batman isn't as tall as he used to be, doesn't seem to have the same voice, and a whole lot of other things. So,
which is good because that's something that Commissioner Gordon should pick up on. You should play that up on, and I'm glad Morrison's actually doing that.
He's doing that. And but this issue focused a little bit more on the issue of Damian, and finally establishing how old Damian is. He's 10 years old. Yeah. I had no idea that kid was that young. Yeah. I thought he was really more like a teenager. No, he's 10 years old. Whew. So,
well, at least Quitely draws him like he's 10 years old.
That is correct.
It's not Tony Downey who draws like he's 20.
But I do have an issue in that a 10-year-old kid doing this kind of stuff, I mean, physically, he's not... Physically, I know if you can take a kid and you can train him with the League of Assassins and so on and so forth.
And that's why he's able to do
it. Well, but see, even that's really not going to hold, because if you've ever seen the Russian gymnasts during the Cold War when they had these kids that were raised they were raised under the training of these great athletic masters, and all they did morning, noon, and night is training to be athletes for the USSR in the Olympics every year. You're not that physically developed at 10 years of age. It doesn't really start happening until you're...
Let me ask you this. Puberty. Were any of those kids the child of Bruce Wayne? All right, that's right.
Okay, superior genetic stock. So, I mean, and I liked, to me, Frank Quitely's layouts in this were pretty good. The action scenes were pretty well choreographed. I enjoyed it. The issue I have with this book, though, is a lot of stuff that happened here, I remember happening in the Prodigal storyline. When Dick Grayson was Batman, even then.
Yeah.
And when he had Tim Drake as his Robin back then. Mm-hmm. So it seems like I wish Morrison would acknowledge that more. I don't know if we have to get back into this crisis, pre-crisis malarkey. Because I remember Prodigal took place after Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right.
But it did take place before Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, well, that was like in the early 90s.
And the Superboy punch, which is used to explain everything. But I don't know if this is that type of thing again that it applies. That Dick Grayson forgets that he has been Batman before. He has done this in the past, but Commissioner Gordon remembers that happening before. So somebody explain it to me, because on its own, it works pretty well, but for me, being the DC comic continuity nerd that I am.
Well, DC reboots its own shit like every 3 years. I mean,
it just would have been clever for, like you say, it's good for Morrison to acknowledge that Damian's so young and that quietly draws him that he's young. It would have been cool for Grayson to go, wow, the last time I was Batman, I don't remember it being this hard. Or something like that.
Well, they still, again, well, here's my complaint with this issue, is that you have these really strong scenes with Dick Grayson and Alfred, again, just like when Winnick wrote them. And those are really strong scenes. But, again, like, the problem that Avi had with the first issue is kind of the problem that I had with this issue, is that there just wasn't a lot to it. You have all these kind of cool villains of the circus freaks, but they don't really explain who they are. They don't explain what their powers are. And you know, it's just one of these, like, there's these 3 guys that are kind of like all, like these 3 kung fu guys that are, I don't know how are they tied together or whatnot. Right. It's kind of cool, but the way that quietly draws them, you can't really get a grasp of what is actually going on. And there just seems to be, like, a lot of shit just thrown in there for the sake of throwing shit in there. And I'm not saying shit in a bad way. I'm just saying just a bunch of crap that just is not explained. I guess I didn't mean shit. But it's just not explained. It's kind of, it's like, right, you have all these little cool elements, but there's nothing. There's no substance to anything.
You know, go on. You know what this really felt like to me, and I know I've even commented on it. The first. This feels like the old Batman TV show reimagined for a comic book. It has that feel to it. It has, that light, airy, pop culture-ish type feel to it.
In a way, it's good since they're restarting this whole Batman war. It's kind of good to start with something that's familiar to you, right? To give you something to draw from. But again, Damian kind of gets out of hand. He's kind of like, he's trying to beat some information out of this guy, almost kills him. And Gordon's there. It's like, this isn't cool. Yeah. So it's kind of cool that, again, like, I want to see more of Gordon in here in that way. But I don't know. In the last, I did like how it ended, because there's a lot of dialogue between Alfred and Dick, and they're actually showing what Damian did and how Damian's going on his own. But again, like, because of,
and he does throw his cape into the dryer, as we had. As Avi had, Avi's all over this review today, but that's what Robin says. So I'm out of here, and he throws his cape in the dryer.
And again, one of the problems that I have with Morrison's storytelling sometimes is that you really don't know what's going on from panel to panel. And the Quietly art in this last page, I don't even know what happened in that last panel. Like, what?
It's really vague.
It's very vague, and it's just like, that's the last page of the story. Like, give me something to... so I'm like, oh man, the cliffhanger? Right. But it is completely vague. I don't know if this person blew themselves up and Damian was caught in the blast. Like, I just didn't make any sense to me.
Oh no, the last page is a
well, this is a preview.
The Tumblr.
Right. but I'm talking about the last panel, like here. Yeah. It's just very vague what's happening, and there's just no like, all right, that's it. And when I finish reading an issue, I don't want to be like, right. What the hell just happened? Because
maybe it's just the cliffhanger ending.
But it's not really. But if it's a cliffhanger ending, what the hell is a cliffhanger?
They got blown up. Someone got blown up.
Yeah, somebody got blown up. Exactly. It was Damian. Like that's.
So you're saying oh my goodness! You're saying Quietly pulled a Tony Daniel here?
No, because don't even compare the two ever again. But it's just that I
know what you're saying.
But it's a Grant Morrison storytelling technique where he's like, this is what I want in the panel, and Quietly's like, all right, but this is something that Morrison sometimes can be very vague with stuff that's going on, right? And I just didn't feel that feel this last page or the last panel, and why I might be a little bit down on this is because the first one had set my expectations so high, because I had no expectations for the first one. I was like, well, Morrison came out for Rust in Peace. I don't know how that's going to be, but Quietly's drawing it, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed this one a little bit less because I was hoping for a little bit more. There wasn't a lot of story to the first one. There's a lot of cool interactions in here with Gordon and Dick, and then Dick and Alfred. And those are cool interactions, but it was just very sparse in between it.
It's peppered with character moments. That's what you get.
And that was something I really liked. Yeah. But we still don't know what the deal is with this pig guy, because he just shows up again in the last page. Right. So, and I think there's only going to be 3 issues to this story arc, because fucking Philip Tan's coming on to fill in, and man, that's gonna kill it for me. That's like another thing I'm like not looking forward to. Like I don't think I'm gonna buy it when Philip Tan, because Philip Tan killed Green Lantern for me.
No.
Thank God Doug Mankey's coming on there next week, but you know I'm already not looking forward to anything that Quietly's not drawing. I don't know, man. It's just a big disappointing week. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood today, but you know, but I wasn't in a bad mood a few days ago when I read these either. So I just know it was such a cool week for stuff, and just stuff letting me down.
Letting us down.
And again, it's not like we're bashing the last books.
No.
I mean, there's these qualities to them that they can be so much more than that, but they're just taking forever to get there.
Well, I really liked Batman and Robin #2. I know you didn't like it, but I really enjoyed it.
I liked it. I just didn't like it as much as I wanted to like it. And like I said, there just could have been more to it.
Oh, okay.
I want to find out what this pig guy is about. And he wasn't even in this issue.
Pig Man. Tell us about the Pig Man and the Black Mask. Still don't know who the Black Mask is.
Who cares?
What the hell? All right. When we come back, a book that everyone seems to be liking for good reason, and if you can find it.
Yeah.
See you then.